KPAL News Time is coming up on 8:27. This is Acadiana's Morning News. Brandon Comeaux and Bernadette Lee here with you this morning. And joining us here in the studio now is Andre Comeaux. He wants to be your next state representative in District 45. Andre, good morning.
Good morning, Brandon Comeaux.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you joining us. And, we were talking earlier about this race and how this has been such a positive race run amongst all of y'all. But I want to take you back to election night. What was your thought process once the results came in, and what's your thought process now moving forward?
Well, we're very pleased with the results, and the results are in line with what we expected. We had been working very hard, and it is a positive campaign. We're all friends. We all know each other, but we worked very hard, and we expected a close race. I was surprised a little bit in some of the precincts, but for the most part, we ran first in every precinct with the exception of maybe 5 or 6, and the results were even close in those precincts. And our plan going forward is to continue working hard. I spoke to both Jan and to Jean-Paul afterwards, and Jean-Paul and I both pledged a positive race to continue. And I think we're all kind of cut from a similar area, and the real challenge is to differentiate at this point, differentiate myself from my opponent, and we look forward to doing that because we think we have a positive story to tell. It's what got us to where we are. I think it's about the qualifications and experience of the individual, as well as having details on a plan for serving in government. And I think that's what got us where we are. We will continue to work hard, one vote at a time, because that's what we've done.
Let me ask you things that you feel from the experience side, maybe that give you what you believe is an edge in the race. Experience-wise, the differences between you and Mr. Coussan, and what you think would benefit the people if they do cast their ballot for you.
Well, a lot of people found it refreshing that I have a background with an education in engineering. He's a lawyer. Engineering educations are a little more uncommon in the legislature. Nothing wrong with the lawyers, but we have plenty of them. In fact, they operate the entire judicial branch of our government. And having people like me in the legislative branch of the government seems to make sense to a lot of people. And I also have a background in oil and gas. I was involved in the oil and gas industry when the oil bust of the 80s hit. Jobs is the number one issue in this campaign. I understand the need for economic diversification. I was there and experienced the oil bust firsthand. I've been involved in economic development activities here to increase the healthcare community and the healthcare jobs here. We're becoming a healthcare hub. I was heavily involved in bringing technology here through the fiber initiative. That's paying dividends right now. We're getting a lot of high-tech, good-paying jobs in the area. With SLCC and UL and the asset that we have in Iberia Parish at the airport there, we're making a new push for aviation jobs. The aviation industry is expected to grow as much or more than any other industry globally, and getting jobs here for servicing aircraft, for building aircraft, for repairing aircraft, for making the parts that go into aircraft, that replace the parts that started in the aircraft. Those are all good opportunities here. I understand that. Also, a lot of people are responding very positively to the fact that my wife and I parented in the public school system in Lafayette Parish for 13 years. We know firsthand the challenges that the teachers face, that the students face, that the parents face. But at the same time, I come from the business community with a long history at the Chamber of Commerce, and I understand that perspective, and I think I'm the single candidate certainly left in this race who has enough knowledge and understanding and connections on all sides to bring all of the stakeholders together and work for solutions, not only in finding the right standards, but also in the testing, accountability, and although I'm not an expert, but getting the people together to find the right curriculums, and that part's really left to the school board. That's where that belongs. But the other thing that people recognize, my wife and I parented 2 girls through their teenage years, and we survived to tell that story, and that rings true. I've been working with businesses for almost 30 years in the commercial insurance business, helping them to look after their people and protect their assets and manage their risks. And, it's just I have a lot of life experience and a lot of business experience and an engineering degree. I bring critical thinking, and that's refreshing to a lot of people. And that's the story we're going to continue to tell.
Mm-hmm. How intimidating does it feel if you are elected? I know that, everybody gets in this to serve. Everybody gets in this for, a variety of different reasons, perhaps. But there are so many issues that we have to deal with right away as soon as a new governor takes over in our state. Do you look at that as a mountain, or do you think, we'll just handle it piece by piece? What's your philosophy?
Well, it is a mountain, but mountain is climbed one step at a time. So, it's both. It's piece by piece. I want to give a nod to the third opponent in the race, Jan Swift, who ran third. Jan had a quote right along these lines, and I think Ms. Russo alluded to it a little earlier when you had her on the radio. I was listening on my way in. I think the correct quote from Gandhi is, "Be the change you wish to see in the world." And I think Jan hit it on the nail with that. I hadn't heard that before. She repeated it a couple of times during the campaign. And it really speaks to people who want to serve for the right reasons, to make positive change for themselves, their families, and their communities, not for some political ambition or from some deep-seated need for attention. Intimidated? No, I wouldn't say that I'm intimidated. I respect the challenge ahead. It is going to need to be done one piece at a time, but that's what critical thinking and an engineering degree brings, okay? What are the most critical steps going forward? Now, if I had a magic wand, we talked about this a couple weeks ago, the first thing that I would do, and if you read the AP opinion piece in the newspaper this morning, Melinda DeLotte spoke very briefly about this. There's an effort on to see who's going to be the next Speaker of the House, and they talked about capital outlay. Okay, capital outlay, the governor's power that he has to drive what happens in the legislature. The legislature doesn't have enough power, and capital outlay is the first linchpin. Now, if I had a magic wand, I would pull that linchpin, and we would work on that first. But that is gonna drive whoever gets to be governor is going to use capital outlay and the line item veto to push for who will be the speaker and who will be the president of the Senate and all of the other leadership positions in Baton Rouge. And the rest of us are either swim in the current or swim against the current, get worn out, beat out, and have to go along. And I think that's the biggest challenge. But assuming that a freshman representative coming in can't get that done, and I think that's a pretty good assumption. You have to be a realist. There are two pieces of work that have been done already that I think we should all look to. It's the Streamlining Commission report. We talked about it last time. There's a lot of fat in the government that can be squeezed out with the correct political will, and I think we need to focus on doing that before we focus on anything else. And certainly, I think there's enough money out there to be squeezed out to fund what we want to do without going to the T word. And, nobody wants to talk about that. But that having been said, the other piece of work that's already been done is the tax study that was done by the top economic minds at Tulane and at LSU. And the gist of that study said that we should lower the corporate tax rate from 8% to 5%, the top tax rate. Because that is a distraction for companies that are wanting to come and locate here. And so we have used incentives to sort of carve off those tax rates, and those incentives have become the political incentives and exemptions and exceptions have become the political hot balls that we spend 80% of our time juggling those things around and arguing and fighting. And so I think there's a lot to be said for that, and I think that's what we need to focus on.
We will continue, of course, to highlight this race and talk to the candidates and hopefully have them together in studio to talk about their reasons for running, obviously, and then their plans if elected. Andre Comeaux has been our guest. He is one of the two now in the runoff for District 45 in the Louisiana State House. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Coming